Hi everyone, it's Jessica. Thanks for joining with me today as I help my friend Kelly Baxter Fitzgerald celebrate a wonderful milestone here on YouTube. She recently hit 5,000 subscribers, so a bunch of us are joining together to scrap lift one of her prior projects in celebration. So I had this picture next in my stack to scrapbook, and I really liked all of the colors in the girls' Legos here, and I thought that that would be fun to use some of my new papers from my January Hip Kit Club subscription. And I thought that I could use some of these colorful patterns to just kind of pull out the colors of the Legos sitting there on the table. So I also have, of course, a bunch of fun embellishments that I can use that came in my kit. And I was really drawn to a couple of them that had to do with like partners in crime or, things to do with the two of them that I thought would be really fun to work in there. And so for both of those reasons, that's what I've decided to use as my supplies today. Now here is a look at the layout that I am scrap lifting of Kelly's. She does have a video for it, so I will link that in my description box down below. I went ahead and cut my photo down to 4x4 and matted it on some white cardstock. And then I gutted out that pretty floral paper just so I could save a little bit of it to use later. I also used my Cricut to cut this scalloped square on that purple pattern paper there. And when I kind of had all of that done and started looking at it, I'm like, it's pretty and I do love those colors. That's what I was drawn to, but it's feeling really busy. So I'm going to try to spend a little bit of time here figuring out a way I can kind of cut that down and give the eye a little bit of resting space. I did pull a couple of different pieces of cardstock to see if I layered, a different square underneath that scalloped one, if having that separation between the two pattern papers would help. I didn't really love that. I tried flipping this over. I like the back side as well, but that was making it even busier. And then I just flipped this because it is double-sided paper. And as soon as I put that down, I thought, oh, I really like that. And then I was kind of disappointed because the whole reason I pulled that pattern paper was because I loved the florals and all the colors to go along with the Legos. So I am pretty sure I'm going to stick with this, but then I'm like, how do I get those flowers and colors in there? So this is a scrap from that centerpiece that I had gutted out, and I thought maybe I could use it as one of those pieces to layer behind my photo. Kelly did have a couple of pieces of paper stacked up behind her photo on her layout, so I wanted to mimic that anyway. I want to make sure that one purple flower is definitely showing, so I'll trim that paper down a little bit later just to make sure I have the colors showing that I want. And then I needed another piece of pattern paper to also layer behind, and I pulled this one out here with all of the text on it, and I love it. I love it. I'm so excited. I loved it when I put it down here, but then I thought, oh my gosh, that means I'm going to have to cut into it. And if you have followed me for a while, you know that sometimes I have a hard time cutting my favorite papers. I don't know why, I just want to save them. What am I saving them for? So that's been one of my 2025 crafting goals, is to just stop hoarding my favorite papers and actually cut them down and use them. So I did do that. It pained me a little bit, but I did do it. So I like the way that this is kind of shaping up to be. Now on hers, she did have that circle that kind of came around, but now I'm starting to feel like I'm running out of space for that circle. So I'm going to turn to my die cuts and embellishments that came with my kit and just kind of figure out the rest of this like paper layering, and then I'll kind of deal with the circle part later. Right off the bat, I was drawn to that cute little bingo card. I thought that that made a fun third layer that I could tuck behind the photo. And then I was drawn to a bunch of the die cuts that had flowers in them. So one had a watering can with flowers coming out the top. And then in a second here, I'm going to find there's like a little ice cream cone with flowers coming out on the top. But I just strategically placed them underneath so that all you could see were the flowers. And that was definitely bringing in all of those colors that I had wanted originally from that pattern paper. So I just kind of go through, spend a little bit of time, pulling things that I definitely want to use or things that I potentially might want to use, and I just kind of set them to the side as I am building up this cluster. I'm also kind of wondering how I'm going to mimic the like the scalloped detail that she had all the way around her square there. So it looks like she had used a Cricut pen. Actually, I know she used a Cricut pen. She says it in her video, to kind of draw on her paper, but I don't know how to do that. So I'm kind of, as I'm pulling this stuff, I'm like, what am I going to do to kind of define the edges here around that purple scalloped square? But getting lots of ideas here in my embellishment pieces as I'm just kind of going through. I sort of forgot about the puffy stickers and some of the other things, so later I'm going to go back to those. I also found this little banner piece that I really love, and I think I'm going to have that kind of at the bottom of my photo in all these paper clusters. Now, at this point, I am pretty sure I have definitely layered enough things that I did not really leave myself enough room to mimic that circle that she had going on her layout. And so I think I'm going to begin deviating from the scrap lift at this point and start making it my own. And at first I was really stressed about that because I thought, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be copying her layout. That's part of the celebration here. And then I realized, no, that's the way that inspiration works, right? You kind of begin by mimicking somebody else's project that you love, and then eventually it just kind of becomes its own thing and you put your own spin on it. So that's going to be okay. So I don't do the circles like she has, although I definitely loved that in her project and I want to recreate something like that soon. So I'm going to go ahead and start gluing some things down here. Just getting this, I had also, like I said, gutted out that one bottom piece there. So I like to put the tape on that bottom piece. That way I make sure that I'm not getting it where it doesn't belong if I put it on the top layer instead. And then I want to make sure also that I get it down straight. So I did cut my scallop square as a 10 by 10. So that means I need to come up an inch from the bottom and from each of the sides. So I just like to scoot my bottom paper up a little bit on my Versamat there. That way I have enough room for my T-square ruler to really kind of hook onto the edge and, you know, line all of that up straight. So that looks good there. And now comes, like I said, the dilemma of how I'm going to really define those edges around all of the scallops. I think they do definitely need something, but I don't know how to do the Cricut pen thing like she did. So of course I'm thinking stitching. Stitching is the answer. I can do a little, you know, hand stitching with some black thread here, but I wanted to give myself a guide for poking the holes. So I tried freehanding it with a pencil just so I could kind of see where I was going to poke those holes, and then that didn't turn out very well, so I erased it. I tried grabbing a little circle or something that I could use as a guide to kind of run my pencil along, but you know, those scallops were not like perfect half circles, and so that looked a little wonky too. In the end, I just freehanded my holes with no pencil marks whatsoever, and even though they're not perfectly aligned just inside that scallop square, I think that they turn out okay. So this was definitely the longest part of this layout, was doing the stitching, but it was fun. I just sat on the couch next to my son. We watched a show. I did my hand stitching, and I used 3 strands of black embroidery thread, and I think that definitely makes that pop. That's what that needed. So now I'm ready to go ahead and start preparing all of these layered pieces. Now on the 2 pieces of pattern paper, I am going to grab my edge distressing tool and just kind of rough it up around the edges to give it a little bit of extra dimension. And so I did that to just only those 2 pieces. And then I also took the corner of this cute text paper and just gave it a little curl because there's a little bit of green paper behind it. And I thought that it would be fun to kind of see that pop of green. So I'm going to glue these pieces together so that way I can kind of move them as one unit, and that will help me as I begin putting these different die cut pieces behind it. So most of those are glued together, and then now I can just kind of lift it and set it down, set those die cut pieces down where I want. I was just kind of using it as a guide. I haven't really put it down to the page yet, but later I realized that I forgot about my little banner piece that's going to go underneath the photo, and really I should have shifted this whole cluster up just a smidge. But as you can see, I'm using liquid glue to put some of those die cuts down right away. And so it did take a little bit of fussing, and it kind of ended up being tucked up under the photo more so than I wanted it to be. But I got all of that stuff glued down. And like I said, I had forgotten about some of the other kind of embellishments I had in this kit. So here's where I turn to those puffy stickers. And I love that they are on some clear backing, because what I like to do is just cut them out, and then I can set them directly on my layout and kind of get a feel for what they're going to look like without actually, pulling them off of that carrier sheet and having them stick to anything just yet. So I pulled a couple that I like. I really like this dark circle that says Partners in Crime, because it's just the girls sitting there, playing together at the table. But it was really dark, and I felt like it kind of stood out too much. So I kind of set that aside for a second and thought about that orange circle. I do end up using the orange circle, but I don't end up using that dark circle. I really like that yellow butterfly. You can't see in the video, but the butterfly has some cute text details on it as well. And then I was like, what about a title? I don't know about a title here. I could let that little die cut piece that says 2 peas in a pod be the title. And in fact, that's what I end up doing. But I do play with a couple of those other pieces, just trying to check out what sort of title I'm going to do. Now at this point, because I've eliminated the whole circle feature here, I do have quite a bit of space over to the right-hand side of my purple square. I'm thinking that's where I'm going to give myself room for some journaling. So if it seems a little, off-centered and kind of awkwardly placed, that's the way I'm going to end up balancing that out later off camera. So I'm going to put journaling over there. I decide to go with that orange circle. I like that. And I don't have a whole lot of journaling to put down. This is just a normal day. The girls sitting at the kitchen table playing Legos. And so it's just it just is what it is. It's just a cute little photo of the two of them. I did grab some yellow buttons to sew to the ends of those banner pieces as like, something to hold the banner in place. And that made a nice visual triangle of the yellow. And that was it. Like you said, the longest part was the stitching around the scallop square. Otherwise, this came together very quickly. I love that about kits. You already have all the pieces, and it, especially with paper layers, comes together so fast. So like I said, this is part of a celebration hop for Kelly Baxter Fitzgerald. Her channel is Snips by Kelly. She does beautiful work. So make sure you head on down to the description box to see all the other people who are playing along in this celebration. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope you've been inspired. Happy crafting. Bye.